Richard Allen has been arrested, and he was hiding in plain sight.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, Reporter Room investigators. I have updates for you today on Richard Allen in the Delphi murder case. Richard Allen was brought into court on Tuesday. He was shackled at his wrists and also at his ankles, and he was wearing a yellow prison jumpsuit. Now, this is the first time that the families of Abby and Libby had an opportunity to see Richard Allen since they learned that he has been charged with doing away with Abby and Libby. And many people are wondering what was going through their mind as they watched him being led into court. The prosecutor told the judge that they do not want the records unsealed because, quote, they believe Richard Allen is not the only actor in this, end quote. This is huge. So prosecutors believe that Richard Allen did not act alone. And if you haven't seen my video on Richard Allen, Keegan Kline, and Ronald Logan, along with the information on some of the potential conspiratorial nature of these acts, you will want to see this next, and I will link it for you in the description below, because I do a detailed dive into Keegan Kline, Ronald Logan, Richard Allen, and potential and known connections. So let's get back to the court hearing today, because we know that Richard Allen was asking the court to grant him bail. Now, the judge didn't rule on this yet, because there's going to be a hearing on whether or not Richard Allen can have bail in February. And I'm reminding you that Richard Allen's attorneys were recently added to the case, so the judge only received this request on Monday. This time will allow prosecutors to give reasons why they do not want Richard Allen to have bail, and for defense attorneys to have the opportunity to prepare their reasons of why Richard Allen deserves bail. Now, the four big takeaways from Tuesday's hearing were: 1. The prosecutor stated they do not believe Richard Allen acted alone. 2. There is a petition to have the court documents unsealed. However, Libby German's grandmother wrote a letter requesting that the documents not be unsealed. And I'm not sure what's in the documents, but obviously we want the court to do whatever in the best interest to bring justice for Abby and Libby. So not only did the court get a letter from Libby's grandmother regarding keeping the documents sealed, but we're also learning that 40,000 locals also signed a petition requesting that these documents remain sealed. So the judge did reserve ruling on this, and hopefully we'll get a ruling on this sealing or unsealing of the documents in the next couple of days. 3. The argument was made that it was in the public's interest to unseal the documents, and prosecutors clapped back on this, saying that it was in the public's interest to get justice for Libby and Abby. 4. Richard Allen's attorneys spoke to the media, and of course, they believe that there is not direct evidence linking Richard Allen to the case. And just a reminder that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, so Richard Allen does deserve his day in court. And watching the video of Richard Allen being led into the courtroom and then being loaded into the van after his court appearance, some of the takeaways that I noticed was that there was a lot of heavy security around Richard Allen. In the video that I did earlier this week, I talked about the fact that Richard Allen was allegedly under a 24-hour security watch because predators are not popular in jail. I also shared with you the fact that I believe that Richard has been moved from where he was being initially held to a second location for his safety. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the families of Libby and Abby in a moment, so please stay with me. Everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion, and opinions are not facts, so please don't send any negativity to anyone. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a live stream or a new video, and let's get started. So the other thing I want to talk about is that the initial judge recused himself, and we do have a new judge, and she has a history of allowing cameras into the courtroom. So hopefully we will have an opportunity to watch this trial on television. Now, both of the families from Libby and Abby were seated together in the second row. And when Richard Allen was being led into the courtroom, it's being reported that he did not make eye contact with any members of Libby or Abby's families. The family did not give any interviews, and I'm sure today had to be very emotional for them. I mean, they've waited 5.5 years for this day, and I can't even imagine the anguish that they would have been through. We do know that Richard Allen did have contact with at least one family member when he worked at the CVS. Reportedly, a family member of Libby's brought in her photos for her memorial service. It was her aunt, and Richard Allen gave her the photos free of charge. And I have to wonder if there was some duping delight on his part in doing that. So predators have a really high reoffense rate, and I caught some flack for saying that I didn't think Richard acted alone, but now hearing prosecutors say the same thing, I feel a little bit more comfortable just sharing why I think that. And the reason I didn't think that Richard acted alone is that I believe that more than one person was using the Anthony Schatz catfish account. Keegan Kline also mysteriously had his charges reduced. He had over 30 charges, and I can't even tell you what they were because they're so heinous. But these were reduced, and I believe Keegan Kline is cooperating with law enforcement and is naming names. Richard Allen may have used the Anthony Schatz account, and the reason that I believe this is we know that the Anthony Schatz account had contact with one of the girls on February 12th, just one day before the girls met Bridge Guy and disappeared. One of the other things we learned during the Richard Allen court date is that prosecutors were arguing for keeping the documents sealed, also because there are reportedly, quote, juveniles, end quote. So plural juvenile names in connection to this case. I also brought up in the video I posted earlier this week that I believed that somebody of Richard's age would not be a first-time offender. That it was likely that he had done this before. I also shared with you that I thought this might be some kind of a ring, and that different guys were using the Anthony Schatz catfish account. So the fact that there are juveniles means that there may be more victims in this case, or this case could be linked to other cases. And one of the cases I brought up in the video I made earlier was the case of Elizabeth and Lyric, which also happened on the 13th day of the month. And they were found also in a remote area. But this case happened in 2012. So their families, just like Libby and Abby, were also ruled out. And they lived only 400 miles away from Richard Allen. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Subscribe.